combat has had some huge changes opposite to the previous game Jedi Fallen Order in Jedi Survivor. Those changes are for good, I should like to believe, because they are going to add replayability value to the game. They will also add more versatility for you to take the different encounters, the different enemies, and I would also like to believe that if we have a healthy amount of variety for enemies, this will allow you not to get bored, and if you feel like something is getting repetitive, then you can try a different stance for you to do different stuff basically and feel like the game changes a little bit, both on the pacing and the action and combat of the game. That being said, in today's video I am going to break down everything that you need to know about combat stances before you actually get the game and start seeing which kind of stance would you like to try first. So let's get the basics out of the way. The stances on themselves. We have 5 different stances. We have the single blade stance. This is your overall regular Jedi that we all know and love. This is the kind of stance that you could use one-on-one. But it is also a stance that has a jack of all trades. It can do basically everything that you want to do in the game. It has power, it has decent range, but it is said, of course, that it is going to be focused on duels on one-on-one enemies. This is where the weapon is going to excel the most by taking advantage of precisions, the counter-attack, the timing, and everything that this stance will have to offer. Then you have the double-bladed stance. This is the Darth Maul-like kind of stance, where the lightsaber has a saber on each side of the hilt. This is for crowd control. This is what this stance is going to do. What makes this so amazing for crowd control is the range. So think of this also if you are trying to maintain some kind of distance with the enemy. It is not only going to be locked for crowd control. If it excels in crowd control, that is because of the huge range and AoE effect that this weapon is going to allow you. So that is why this is best suited for crowd control. Then we have the dual blade. Dual blade is going to allow you to have one saber in each one of your hands. It has fast attacks. You will be able to attack in a really quick succession, but it also maintains a high defensive posture. So this is one of the most interesting ones because it's going to allow you to have good offense and defense as well by attacking really fast and by looking actually quite cool with those dual sabers on the hands. Then we have the cross guard. This is my favorite. I do believe that this is what I am going to main during my playthrough, and I say that this is my favorite because of how it looks. It's kind of like Kylo Ren saber. Think of this like a dual-handed sword. So the amazing thing about this is we can speculate a little bit. This is going to be slower attacking weapon. It is going to attack a little bit more slow compared to the different weapon stances that we have, but it's also going to deal tremendous amounts of damage, much more damage in single hits. So it will be interesting to say the least if they are going to have some kind of poise system, because in the previous game we did have some nimble, a huge amount of nimble enemies, and if you do not have the chance to attack that much, then you're basically going to have to rely, if we get the chance, on some kind of poise, or on those windows of opportunity. It's going to be a little bit more timed up, but it's going to be that much more rewarding because it's going to deal that much damage. Then we have the blaster stance. We don't know that much about this one that much yet, but this is basically a saber in your hand and a blaster on the other hand. So if you're fighting, I would like to believe, range enemies. Most of the enemies are going to have range, but I mean, for example, the flying ones or the enemies that you have far away from a cliff and you have to jump before you actually get to them. This is a good choice to use because you have your blaster in one hand. If the enemy is attacking you from a distance, you can also get rid of the enemies that you have in the close distance that have melee weapons. So yes, this is also quite an interesting weapon. Now this is where it gets interesting. You are only going to be able to seamlessly change between one combat stance and to the other in game, well, exploration and during combat, just between two of them. You can only select two of them to change on seamless situations. The rest of them you will have to go through the meditation points. And this is where it's going to get interesting, like I said, because this is as close as we can get us to make a build. And you do need to, I advise for you to feel how the different stances, pardon redundance, feel on gameplay and combat, because this is how you're going to build your combinations. If you do not want to explore that much, if you do not feel like you're going to get that many talent points, you have to be very careful on which stance are you going to use. Very important aspect, point, and huge emphasis. While a stance focuses on a single thing, do not be afraid of focusing on that if you feel comfortable. So if you think you're going to look cool, you're going to look good while using a saber in one of your hands, the dual sabers, then by all means use that one and upgrade that one. But this is where combinations get interesting. Because let's say, for example, I believe, me personally, what I think that I am going to make is that I am going to have the basic saber on my first slot, and then I'm going to have the cross-bladed hilts, because I'm just like that, dude. I like big swords to attack enemies, and it's also going to allow me to, when I get to fight against the more nimble enemies, I will only use my basic saber. And if I get more attack of opportunities, let's say with bigger enemies that have bigger health bars, but they also have bigger windows of opportunity to attack, then that is probably when I'm going to use my cross-blade saber. Interestingly enough, you have many different combinations to place on your playstyle and feel the versatility of the game, because again, for example, let's say that on the opposite hand you want to have the double blade saber, which is the one for AoE that deals AoE and nice range of attack, and then you pair that up with the blaster and blade. That is going to allow you to have basically everything that you need. You're going to have range with your blaster, you're going to have your lightsaber for duels, and you're going to have the double blade for the AoE kind of scenarios where you have many enemies against you that are bothering you that much and that they have you on defense. And as a matter of fact, while I am telling you this, while I was planning all of this, I said to myself, dude, maybe this is something that I would like to try out. But do have all of this in mind, because the very first early game points that you will be able to place on your skill tree, remember the skill tree that we have in the meditation places, that is where you are going to allow to make more powerful each one of the stances. So if you want to focus on just a single stances early game, you're going to become very powerful. And if you want to focus yourself on two stances, maybe it's going to take a little bit more to get that much more powerful with those two stances. And if you want to have all of the stances, then you have to do a lot of investments, a lot of exploration, a lot of combat, a lot of leveling to change in between them when you feel bored from one to another. So that is what you need to have in mind. But as a conclusion, I would like to tell you that even though while some stances are better for certain situations, it doesn't matter that you cannot use the rest of the stances. And if you are like that kind of player that do not want to dabble that much into the combat stances mechanic and you want just to use one single stance, then by all means do it. A single stance, it doesn't mean that you're not going to be able to, it's not going to lock you out of situations. You do have the force as well. For range, you have the parries as well to deflect the shots of the blasters of the enemy. So you have many different tools that you can play around with all of this and make your experience your own experience and change it at your heart's content to feel a little bit more refreshed on the gameplay side when things can start to get repetitive. That being said, if you like the information, if you like the content, like it really super appreciated, not only that you're a gorgeous and beautiful person, you are indeed gorgeous and beautiful person. I will be seeing you goddamn gorgeous and beautiful people in the next one. Have a beautiful day, and goodbye.